My next guest is Tihal, and he is the account executive in partnership marketing at the NHL. Steve, thanks for doing this, and welcome to the show.
Absolutely, thanks, Vinny. It's always great chatting with you. So definitely was on the invite. It'd be a lot of fun.
Steve, walk us through why you wanted to work in sport and where you're today within your career.
Yeah, no, I like to think I got kind of lucky with that, Canadian kid sort of, dream job story a little bit. Obviously growing up, you want to be around hockey and you want to play and you want to be drafted first overall, and then you want to score the Stanley Cup clinching goal in overtime of Game 7 on a breakaway kind of thing. So, that's always a dream. Obviously, pretty early on, I realized not a great skater, so probably wasn't gonna, that playing career wasn't really going to pan out too well. So kind of pivoted a little bit, tried to get, got pretty good at NHL on the video game and being a GM. So figured, all right, let's go that way. I'm going to be the next, GM of the Leafs and help bring a cup home. Then obviously, your buddy from Brock there kind of took that job away as well. So I had to, pivot again. But really, when I went to school, I became a big fan of just kind of the business side of things and learning about that side of the industry. Learning about partnerships, things like that, and then just kind of want to pursue that. So I think I don't know how great of a salesman I would be to really do the sales side of things, but once the contract's signed and the money's exchanged and they just need somebody to jump in and kind of handle the ideas and handle the marketing and just kind of handle the relationship, I think that's where where I shine a little bit more. So kind of wanted to kind of go down that path and then work through the OHL and did it there, working with some partners. Did some work in Sudbury for the Wolves, then in Mississauga for the Steelheads, and then once the NHL, I saw an opportunity there, and again, a lot of stars aligned, but eventually made the jump to the NHL in partnership marketing, and kind of, obviously want to kind of keep growing in my career, but it's very close to the dream job, at the time being.
Steve, what's the comparison working with an OHL hockey team to NHL league office? Is there any similarities or differences?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot on both sides. Obviously the differences are fairly straightforward. I think the OHL, junior hockey, it's big in Canada, but it is a little bit more regional. There are smaller staffs, smaller budgets, things like that. So I found when I was in the OHL, and I think most people in the OHL have this experience. And obviously, I guess I don't know how much we teed at the beginning of this, but if the listeners don't know how we met, Vince came to us in Mississauga, as like a 12-year-old wonder kid that wanted to kind of come and shadow somebody for a day, and popped in and was threatening for our jobs on the first day, but obviously kind of got to come in and see the wide variety of things we take on in the OHL. So I was working in sponsorship and sales, so that entailed ticket sales and sponsorships, partnership management, things like that, but also I would do graphic design and I would write press releases and I would throw on the mascot suit over here and there and DJ games in game kind of things. So a lot of roles you can wear, a lot of hats you can wear, I guess, a lot of roles to take on. So I find the OHL, you stretch yourself a little bit more and you do a lot of different things. Jumping to the NHL, it's obviously very, very, very focused. So in partnership marketing in the NHL, my job is partnership marketing. I don't have to do the graphic design of things, and I don't have to write press releases. I think if I wanted to, I'm sure I could put it forward and see if they take me. But we've got a much bigger staff, obviously much bigger budgets than the top professional hockey league in the world. So I think that's where the differences start coming. Obviously, the league office, you're working for the entire league versus a club. So, the Toronto Maple Leafs have their own sort of, partnership marketing team where they work with specific Leaf partners, and they can put a Leafs logo beside Tim Hortons logo, and people in Toronto will eat it up. On our side, we're really representative of the entire league. So when you see Tim Hortons, the official coffee of the National Hockey League in Canada, at least, that's what we work on, where it's the national program. It's a little bit of a bigger scale. There's obviously the regional offshoots, but that's sort of the level we work at. And again, the budgets are bigger, the brands are a little bit bigger. At the end of the day, though, again, going back to just kind of the similarities, it's still partnership management. You still need to be able to jump on and chat with somebody and understand what they're looking to do. You have to be able to kind of work with them and look at their ideas. Be prepared to provide your own ideas. You really have to work as a team in that sense. And I think it's just that's the part of the skill set that doesn't change. I mean, you still need to be good and be able to work with people, I think, is the biggest part of our role. So at the end of the day, when it comes to partnership marketing, whether it's in sports or just in sponsorship in general, I think that's where the job becomes a little bit more similar. But again, obviously the NHL versus the OHL, there's a little bit more money flying around. So the idea is a little bit bigger.
Steve, you mentioned the Mississauga Steelheads, and I think it was like 6 or 7 years ago. And I did an internship with Landmark, and it was so weird going into the office because I thought of all the memories with the Steelheads, and then, a couple years later, that was with Landmark. So to have both sides of it, it was like, oh wow.
Well, it was also it was pretty funny because I guess obviously Elliot, shout out to Elliot who owns obviously the Steelheads and Landmark. When I first started Mississauga when the team first became the Steelheads, we had separate offices. We ended up combining to one big office, a few years down the road, and I just remember it being pretty funny because the Landmark guys are I don't see they're any more professional than we are, but they're doing their jobs, they're going in, they're working hard every day, hammering it out. And we're going to have a little bit more fun, yelling across the office and shoot hockey pucks around the office. So I to this day I feel bad for those guys that came in to hopefully continue their regular work day, and then you had us kind of flying around and throwing mascot heads on and running around the office a little bit. So
It's actually true. uh, Steve, what are your day-to-day tasks and responsibilities at the NHL?
I'm going to give you the most cliche answer that you're going to get on this, and you'll probably hear from everyone in every role. But really, really, no 2 days are the same. I think there's a lot of similarities day to day as far as you need to be on top of things, you need to be on your emails, you need to be on top of the conversations. But the majority of our day is kind of talking to others. So whether that's talking to your partner and their account rep to hear what they're doing, whether that's talking internally to our part where you're talking a new marketing campaign, so you have to interact with legal. So we're on the phone with our lawyers and figuring things out that way. Some days it's a consumer product that's launching. It's we have our quality control team looking at something. So at the end of the day, I mean, it's a lot of the majority of the day spent whether on email or on the phone or on Zoom. Obviously we used to be face to face a little bit more, but Zoom kind of fills that void. It's a lot of interacting with people and a lot of kind of staying on top of your emails. But that's kind of where at the very base that's what it is. But then what those exactly entail every day is completely different. Depending on what campaign we're working on, what partner you're working with, what the new priority is. Those always change, but at least we know that we built a pretty good base of knowing who to go to in what department or with which company. So a lot of conversation, I guess, would be the day to day.
Is there any skills you learned, Steve, throughout this whole experience with the National Hockey League that maybe you have improved upon from in the past?
Yeah, I think so. I think again, just being a little bit more, being a little bit more focused in the role versus having to kind of jump around and do a lot more things. It gives you time to sort of fine tune the skills that are specific to sponsorship. So again, whether that's just conversing with people or trying to think long term and think big picture things, look at different things that are happening in the industry. I think before coming to the NHL, when again being the OHL, kind of stretching a little bit thinner, um, you get good at a lot of things, but not really great at anything. So when I left the OHL, I could Photoshop a picture, write a press release, sign a sponsorship deal, and then put up a dashboard, and then DJ a game. Whereas now I don't have to worry about the four other things. Now I just have to worry about working with partners, helping to develop ideas, keeping on top of media trends in the marketing world, things like that. So I think really there's nothing. I don't think there's anything new that I've developed, but I think you definitely fine tune your skill set a little bit more and become just better at a lot of things versus being kind of okay at a lot of things.
How do you manage relationships with corporate partnerships within your role?
Again, it's just a lot of open communication. So it's a lot of kind of being on the phone, hearing their ideas, kind of oversharing our ideas. We might have a partner come to us and say we want to work on a new program, and we're going to launch it next year in October at the start of the season, or whenever that may be. And they may say, what ideas do you have for us? Like, what can you come back to us with? So we might jump into a room with chat with our legal team, chat with our quality control team, our our consumer team, our events team, whoever it is. Just get a bunch of people together, kind of start having conversations, trying to develop an idea. We might build out a great plan, and then go back on the phone with that partner, and they may say they might say like, hey, you know what, like we came up with something, we don't need this anymore. And we're like, oh well, there's a couple hours down the drain a little bit, but I think it's just the open communication. I think as long as you're talking to your partners, talking to your reps, talking to different contacts, and everybody stays on the same page. It makes it a little bit easier, obviously, when you're juggling many different departments. So again, whether legal might look at something one way, whereas sales might look at another way, and our consumer team might look at another way versus our internal marketing team. So everybody's got obviously their own insights. So it's really just, I think in my role, what we do the most of is kind of bring different ideas together, bring different opinions together, and then just almost package it up and bring it back. So as much as we're trying to contribute, we a lot of the time we like to play. We're sort of glorified middlemen at times, where it's just, let's talk to as many people as possible, get as many instances we can, and then package up and bring it back to the partners. They appreciate more, because at the end of the day, you never want to have to be going back to somebody back and forth on the phone, 4 or 5 times, when you can save one email or one conversation. So again, a lot of the fun is working with all the different departments and getting their insights. And I think that's one piece of advice I offer to everyone is, when you're starting out, do as much as you can, because you never know when that sort of familiarity is going to help you out later on. If you can understand, why an events team does something different from how a sales team does something, it just helps paint a better picture, and makes it a little easier to communicate.
Steve, how's the collaboration with working with multiple NHL departments? Because collaboration is everything in the industry, and I'm assuming everybody has to be on the same page to reach the
Yeah.
ultimate goal.
No, absolutely. And I think it's just, I think the more familiar you get with the departments, the easier it becomes. And I mean, I don't want to say it's ever easy, because obviously I'm never going to understand the law like a lawyer would. So, we obviously would look to them to kind of, manage risk and things like that. Um, the same way with an events team that's putting on an event, we can say we want to see our partner branding, all over a building, but the events team might say, well, no, like, that's not how this works. Our sales team might say, no, we got to this with other partners. So I think just working with them more and more, understanding what their goals are and what they're working towards, helps to sort of deliver a realistic, package back to a partner. Um, Again, I think the more that you can kind of work with others and understand what their goals are, whether it's to, sell this many more sponsorships, or, fill this many more dasher boards, or have this many Kit Kat bars at a party kind of thing. Once you can understand all of that, then it makes it much easier to just kind of put it all together, and take one package back to a partner, and kind of go on with it that way. To people, the more you kind of get to understand the different things that go into everything, then I think the better suited you are.
Even learning about fellow employees, Steve, that's the most interesting part for me, is to learn about everyone's different styles and philosophy and insights, because everyone is different and no one's the same.
Oh, 100%. And even whether it's people you work with, or people that you just kind of know within the industry, or people that just like, just your friends sort of thing. I think it helps just to talk to people and get to know what makes them tick, and what their experiences are. Because at the end of the day, I mean, I I got to stop making the joke, but I always make the joke that the job we do isn't, it's not that hard. I mean, you need to learn how to work with people, how to talk to people, how to just be a good listener, be a good person, more than anything else. I mean, at the end of the day, you can learn how to you can learn Photoshop, and you can learn how to approve a campaign that's coming in, or things like that. But if for lack of a better term, if you're an asshole along the way, nobody's going to work with you anymore. So I think, yeah, the more you can work with people, the more you can talk to them and get to know them, the easier it is to communicate, the easier it is to relate to them, and it just makes the understanding so much easier. And you can probably do a lot more, just knowing people and knowing what their expectations are, versus kind of guessing or assuming.
Everybody says, Steve, that the industry is really big, but it's actually really small, because everyone knows everybody.
Absolutely. I think, obviously I've been watching the show a little bit, and as much as I want to get to know Jack Armstrong, I know you had Danielle on from MLC, and, we obviously don't work together directly, but whether it's being around the building, or, being on LinkedIn, or seeing a campaign they're putting to market, everybody kind of gets to know each other, if not by face, then at least by name. And, the upside to that is that whenever you want to make a move or jump around, you can kind of build up a good stable. People understand your work. The downside is that, if you go in and you're not great to work with, people also hear that too. So I think I don't want to say it's a double-edged sword, because at the end of the day, as long as you're being easy to work with and being a good person and always work with others, I think it benefits you quite a bit. But yeah, if you kind of go down the other road on the other side of it, then people hear about it as well. So
I forget who said this quote, Steve, but I always think about it. And the person said, "Reputation is everything," and that's
100%.
yeah.
No, it totally is. And I think, your reputation, your attitude, like your work ethic, that's what will carry you through. Because at the end of the day, I mean, again, another joke that we got to stop making because it kind of sounds bad out in the industry. But at the end of the day, we're not doctors. We're not on the front lines. We're not saving the world by any means. We're helping hockey. Hockey's going to happen whether if I'm not there, hockey still happens, kind of thing, right? So you take a step back, you get to understand that like you're not going to make or break anything, but having a good attitude, having willing to work, that's what your legacy sort of is, at least in this industry, where if I was to leave tomorrow, the NHL definitely wouldn't shut down, but I would hope that if I left, they miss me a little bit because I was hardworking, right? So that's all you can really do in a role like this, and it's true. If you go in and you work hard and you have a good attitude and you build up a good reputation, that'll travel. But again, on the other side is if you don't want to work and you kind of sit back and people don't want to work with you, then that reputation will carry you through as well, right? And people will hear that. So always, it doesn't hurt to try to be a good person, right? So I think that's probably the best advice I can give anyone.
And it's a long-term game, right, Steve? Like it takes a long time to build your career.
Absolutely. That's where I like to say that I got very lucky, and I got there were very many bounces along the way that I caught in my favor that if something had gone the other way, maybe we wouldn't have worked out this way. I mean, I was very lucky at having interned in Mississauga. I really just take a step back to have worked with the Wolves and then had that opportunity to take that experience into the Memorial Cup, and then from there, get to Mississauga. Timing worked out where somebody left the role in Mississauga as I was finishing up an internship, and I was able to jump into that role. And then again, if one of those things along the way doesn't happen, then I probably don't get to where I am at the moment. But it's true. It's tough to think that you can kind of come out and just have it all sitting there for you. Again, I got very lucky going to school, interning, getting the job in the way they tell you it'll work. But in most cases, that's not how it is. You kind of have to grind your way up a little bit more, whether that's networking or talking to people. But again, that all comes back to your attitude and the kind of reputation you build for yourself. Because maybe you don't get something right at first, but a few years down the line or a few months down the line, whenever it may be, somebody might remember your name, and that might be your ticket in, right? So we'll go back to you where when you came in at 15 in Mississauga, like whatever that was 7-8 years ago. But when I see an email from you come through, or I see a message from you come through, I mean, I open up right away, right? Because you built that reputation from obviously a younger age than I was. But yeah, I mean, those are the kind of people you want to keep in touch with.
Thanks, Steve. Send emails and you just hope individuals like yourself to be like, okay, I'll do this for 20, 30 minutes and have a conversation about the sport industry. And that's kind of how it came about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you're in university, when I was in university at least, they always drove home like network, like whether it's the alumni network, whether it's people you may have worked with. It's also, it may come from places you don't even think about, right? Like I started out, my first job, I worked in the kitchen at Montana's, like making ribs. And, I would jump out and I would serve over here and there, but it's one of those like, when I was working there, I met people that went on to become bigger chefs. I met people that went on to become actors. I met people that, are doing nothing now. So you get all sides of it, but you never know when you want to be able to kind of reach out to somebody. So, getting in touch with people, talking to people, it never hurts. Because I mean, selfishly, you never know when, at what point down the line you might need to call on someone. But, obviously on the other side, they can kind of treat the same way. But the earlier you get to it, and it's hard. I mean, starting out, like I was not a fan of networking because I didn't really know what to say or what to do. But sometimes it's just listening and having a familiar face, that sort of thing, right? So, it can't stress that enough. The bigger you build your network, just the more people, the more experiences, the more things you can hear about, the more things you can learn about, and ideally, in the end, the more people that can help you out. So,
I worked at a paint store one summer, Steve, and I actually met sport industry professionals while doing the job.
What paint store did you work at?
It's called Paintscapes. It's Clarkson Road.
Okay.
So worked there for a couple months, like in the summer, and I met I met soccer coaches, I met hockey coaches at minor league levels, and I'm like, wow. So you really, with sport, you can really meet anybody, anywhere, right?
Absolutely. The reason I asked is my draw to the paint industry is just the first sponsor I ever sold and the first deal I ever worked on was Deluxe Paints in Mississauga. So, I'll always the paint industry and I don't know if it's even a paint industry, but yeah, it stays close to my heart because it's kind of one of the first ones that helped me out here.
Steve, so Is there a process or specific goals in helping to achieve marketing campaigns to customers or consumers?
I think that there definitely are. I think it comes a lot more from. I mean, I can speak to it from my role. The success or reaching those certain goals is a lot. It's dictated by your partner. So, Tim Hortons, for example, might come in and say, we want to sell X amount of coffees this year. So here's what the campaign be. On the other side, another partner, Bridgestone Tires might come in and say, we just want people to know we want them to associate us with hockey. So we want an average awareness score of this. So two very different goals, but ultimately it's dictated by the partner. At the end of the day, they're the ones that are doing that. It's their brand that's going forward. Obviously at the NHL, we look to help push that as much as we can and use kind of our fan base to help grow their businesses as well. But ultimately, it's up to them. If they decide that they want to do this amount of sales or have this many people see them or just do a goodwill campaign, it comes from them. And once they told us what they want to do, then that's where we would work with them. So if we know that, this is a completely made up example, but if a company comes to us and says, hey, we have to sell X amount of these things, we want to sell, 1 million in 2 months, but they've only been selling, 1,000 a month, then, it's kind of on us to be like, hey, like, I don't know if there's a campaign that can do that for you, but maybe look at it this way, or maybe it's an endorsement with a player here, or maybe you buy out NHL.com for a few days. Whatever it is, you obviously try to help as best you can, and then obviously look at things realistically because we know our business and we try to learn our partners' businesses. So I think we never get an outrageous ask like that anymore. But it's really just once they've outlined what they consider success, then we'll try to use our outlets, whether that's through digital or broadcast or media, whatever it is, to do what we can to help them use our brand to kind of amplify their brand.
Steve, I saw once I went to excuse me once I went to a Toronto Maple Leaf game and I saw the big I guess deodorant
Yeah, yeah.
right by the Zamboni, and it was like attached to it. It looked super cool.
Yeah, it's what, it's some of those things that you remember, right? Like I'll always think back to the OHL, and I want to say, okay, I just not remembering as much as well as I wanted to, but there used to be like Denny's would sponsor the Zamboni that was like the Grand Slam Boni. I think my favorite was one of the teams in the OHL that's no longer in the OHL, but they had their power play, or sorry, they had their penalty kill sponsored by Aren't We Naughty, like the adult store, and just it would be like here's the Aren't We Naughty penalty kill, and family friendly teams have prevailed a little bit, so that kind of went away. But it's one of those, like, the fit might not have been there, but it's definitely memorable. So some brands might decide that's what they want. They want kind of the shock value. They want to go viral. So if that's a goal, then again, I don't know. I think from the NHL side, there are obviously brands we'll work with. There are some brands that we probably wouldn't work with. So I think again, we would try to do our best with a partner to try to help them out. But obviously, you draw the line in some places. But there's definitely
the line, as you mentioned, Steve, that's the one that you don't want to cross. Cancel culture and whatnot. There's that line that you can't go over, and that's what I've noticed within the last couple months.
Absolutely. I think just everything going on, I think that's become a pretty big thing. And just, brands are always looking to, brands want to toe the line, right? And I understand, like, you want it to go viral. You want people to be talking about it. So you'll see an ad that, probably, sometimes their ads are just like, okay, that's a little bit offside, but it gets you talking. So, I mean, awareness wise and drawing attention to the brand, it definitely does the job of that. Is it good attention? Maybe not all the time, but again, every brand has its own risk tolerance. They know what they want to sell. Campaigns that I think we've all seen and has been awesome is like Sick Kids Hospital. They do like the Sick Kids and basically creating superheroes. Where I think a lot of the time you think of a hospital, you think of children undergoing treatments, and it's kind of that sympathetic. You obviously feel bad. You want them to all be healthy, but then the way they flipped it on its head, it's like, no, these guys are superheroes. Like, they're better than healthy. It's like, this is awesome. Like, it's a little bit unexpected when it first came out, but it's been awesome to see, and it's been like an amazing campaign. So, sometimes you can pull that off and it works out, but obviously sometimes there are other campaigns that don't quite work that way. So it's obviously knowing your brand best and knowing what your goals are, and then from ideally you can kind of keep it, you can keep it proper that people will see it and react to it properly and not turn on you right away. But obviously, sometimes you try and fail a little bit, right? So part of the process.
Steve, let's end on this. What is your most memorable experience so far in the sport industry? as a professional or a fan experience that you might have?
Interesting. All right. Well, I'll give you the fan experience first. My most memorable moment, and I know that we're Toronto or Mississauga. It's this podcast. I think I know who your listeners are a little bit. So I'm gonna flip it on its head a little bit. I'm definitely not. I'm not a big Toronto Blue Jays fan. I'm actually a diehard Boston Red Sox fan. So I'll always say my biggest fan moment was I wasn't there, but just remember watching on TV in 2004. Not even winning the World Series, but just coming back and beating the Yankees. Those 4 days in October, it was down 3-0 in like the 8th inning where, it looks like it's over. And then, David Roberts steals second, and then Ortiz hits it. And, we'll see you tomorrow night, or we'll see you again tonight. And then just kind of wrote it out. And then, 2004, obviously the Sox broke the curse and won the World Series. So I'll say that's my favorite fan experience that I remember watching. Obviously, in person would have been, being in Jurassic Park for the Raptors last year. I mean, they're still champions, so we can still talk about it. But I would say, from the fan side, those are definitely my favorite fan experiences. Um, Working in the industry, I'll say my favorite, industry experience would have been 2017. We did the Bridgestone NHL Winter Classic, so we were out in St. Louis, and that was really my first, and I'd been to other NHL events. That was the first one that I really felt more a part of. I was working on our Bridgestone business at the time. It's obviously there. It's the hallmark regular season game on the schedule. Bridgestone being the title partner, and working with Bridgestone, it was cool to kind of really get involved with it. But just going to St. Louis, and at the time, the team, the fan base was incredible, but they were so thankful. We'd walk around in an NHL jacket, and people would stop you on the street and thank you for coming to St. Louis and bringing them the game. Or I remember we were giving away a couple pairs of tickets, just randomly selecting fans, and seeing a family kind of break down crying because we'd given them hockey tickets. It's like that's the experience. Like it's not picked up and it's not getting covered so much in the news or anything like that, but see people genuinely appreciative and seeing how sport can change people's lives a little bit. I think that was awesome, and I mean we've done events since then. They've all been awesome. St. Louis on the whole is obviously at that point they're just happy to have a game. Then they're now they're winning Stanley Cups and hosting All-Star games, being all over the place. So obviously it's evolved there, but I like to think back in 2017 to the Winter Classic, just being able to actually interact with fans and seeing how thankful they were. That was incredible, and that was like this isn't just sports anymore, right? This is a little bit bigger than just the game. So I think that kind of changed my perspective a little bit on what it is we actually do. And again, we're still not saving the world, but it's nice you can brighten somebody's day.
Steve, I see all your social media posts about NHL events and whatnot, and I watch them, and they're so cool. I'm like, wow, Steve's here, or Steve's there. It's really, really cool.
It's a lot of fun, and I think we all talk about it a little bit within the office because they're obviously a ton of work, and obviously we do a lot of work on the sponsorship side. I can't imagine working for the NHL events team who puts these things on, and whether it's the entertainment team or like the event planning team, the logistics of like putting 100,000 people in a stadium and theming the whole thing and bringing in a musical act. Like I wouldn't even know where to start on that. So no chance I can do what those guys do. Obviously, we can try to support by having our partners chip in to help cover the cost of a lot of it and build their own campaigns. But there's times where you kind of get into it and you're like, you know what, like this is stressful. You get into the heat of it a couple days out or a day out, and you're freaking out. You have so much going on, and then I think me personally, I find myself sometimes taking away and being like, what's going on? Why are we doing this? But then, on January 1st, when the puck drops at the Winter Classic and you see 100,000 people out there, or, at the All-Star game or the Stanley Cup final, whatever it is, then you kind of see people, it becomes more real. And that's where it's like, that's right. This is pretty cool. Like, this isn't just work anymore. Like, this is a pretty cool event to be a part of. So I think, like any job, there's times where you kind of get beaten down a little bit and you get sick of it, but then you take a step back and you're like, yeah, this is pretty cool. So kind of helps to bounce you back out a little bit.
It's a much smaller scale, but I felt the same way with like student council events when we put something on, and you feel kind of like you feel pride and you feel that you've accomplished something really important, right?
Well, 100%. I mean, it doesn't even matter the scale of the event because it's just when you can see your idea sort of come to life. I always use the reference of like when you see that when we're sending emails in, March, it doesn't seem like anything. You're sending emails back and forth. You're talking about ideas, whatever it is. But then you fast forward to an event on, again, January 1st. But it's like, right, like this started with a couple emails where we were just doing our regular jobs, and here we are. Like we were at the Cotton Bowl this year in Dallas, and it's like, yeah, no, we're standing in the Cotton Bowl now, and there's hockey happening, in Dallas, Texas. So it's true. When you can see your ideas come to life, I think no matter what the scale is, it's awesome, right? You see your hard work kind of, become a real thing. So it's definitely pretty cool.
Steve, can't thank you enough for doing this. Really great speaking with you as always, hearing your story and insights. That we could be talking probably for 5 hours, but we all have lives. So thank you, Steve,
No,
for this.
absolutely, man. This was great. Like I said, I've been following the kind of the series so far, and seeing some of the guests on, and it's been pretty cool. I've been trying to keep up on it and watch everyone. I think I'm a couple episodes behind, but it's great stuff you're doing, man, and it's a great way to take advantage of. We've all got lives, but we're also all kind of trapped inside a little bit. So it's a great way to use the time. It's a great way to put out content for people. So I think I've been enjoying it. So I look forward to kind of obviously seeing this one, but then seeing the next ones after this.
Oh, thanks, Steve. I had one quick thing before we go. I had somebody text me the other day, and they said, "Oh, you're putting out too many episodes. I can't keep up." And I'm like, "They're only 2 or 3 a week, and they're short."
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's been pretty funny, and it's true. It's nice that they're not super long. I mean, I think we all love listening to some podcasts, but when they're 2 hours, it takes a lot of time. This one's perfect. 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then you get the information, you get on with it. It's good for the attention span for sure.
Thanks, Steve, and that's it.
Thanks, Vince.